Get on up here, Cap. Everyone clap loud for awesome Cap. Good luck. Have fun.
I make no guarantees for any of this.
That slide is amazing.
Yeah, so I always start with this slide because I feel like it's pretty motivational. Like if that cat can ride bacon through space, then so can everyone here. So yeah, hi. I'm Cap. I'm a product design lead at Etsy. Does anyone here not know what Etsy is? Is anybody here unfamiliar? If you're not, Google it. It's okay. I'm just kidding. Oh, is there anybody get notes on here? I was using presenter notes. No good? Man, I spent all that time on that. This is going to go really poorly. So Etsy was started in Brooklyn in 2005. Without my notes, I actually don't know. And ever since then, we've look, I've only been there a year. What do you want? And ever since then, we've had our community making and selling handmade and vintage goods on the internet. We're in over 200 countries in a bunch of languages. We have over 1 million active sellers. We're growing really fast. We've, this year, or in 2012, we actually did over almost $900 million worth in sales. So that's how much our community sold in 2012. And it's only going way faster. Yeah, I got there and I was like, really? That's a lot of money that we're now responsible for. No pressure. And yeah, so, and so we're growing as a company too. So the design team in 2010 was 2 people. Maybe. In 2011, there were 6 people on the design team. In 2012, we were about 12. That's when I started. And now in 2013, we're at 25. We're interviewing somebody today. Come on, do it. And we're trying to hire a lot more. I just need 12 more designers, so I'm not going to run on that board, but you should just, @reply me or something if you want to come work at Etsy. It's pretty cool. Oh, that's it. This whole talk. I just wanted you to come work at Etsy. So as we've been growing really fast, we've actually been struggling with this idea of scaling our processes as a design team to match the scale of Etsy. We're like, the entire org's growing really fast, right? Not just the design team. We're actually at 500 people almost at Etsy across like Brooklyn and San Francisco, London, Australia, Berlin. And so we had to figure out a way for all of us to keep working together. Like, how does a 20-plus person design team scale within an organization and scale with this like product? And I was thinking about it a lot, and we've like started to develop these processes, and we've accidentally come up with our own principles of product design. There's not very many. There's only a couple. We'll go fast. The first one actually is just be a product designer. That's how I feel a lot of the time, actually. The key word being product, right? Our designers at Etsy are full stack designers, so they do UX, visual design, and we actually implement our own front-end code. It's kind of like a prerequisite for any designer who works at Etsy. We call us design-acorns, but we have 25 of them, so they can't be that rare, right? So a typical design process might look like this. A lot of people are probably familiar with this. So you design, and then you develop, and then you measure. And this is a single timeline. It's usually around a few months long. The beginning, that gray part, is like planning, and then design, develop, measure, and then people get fired at the end because you messed up. So what I think is a better process is actually, and this is like halfway towards a better process, is that design isn't just limited to one single part of it, that actually design goes all the way through to the end from the beginning. Let's step back through that. And that's because like design is like, wow, we're just like all over the place with this thing. Design isn't just like what we're doing or what it looks like. It's actually like how it works, why it exists. And the only way that we're able to influence that is by being a part of the entire process. So how do we do that? Well, so designers get involved really early at Etsy. So again, like in the planning process before any work has been done. And I brought this over from Amazon, actually, because I'd worked at Amazon before this for a year and a half, and we had to convince executives. Man, this is like a really nice hybrid talk. Convince executives of a lot of stuff, and we had to show them designs that they had probably not seen before or hadn't seen for a few weeks because they're busy like looking at other people's designs for other things. And we had to set context for the work we were doing for these people. So we wouldn't spend the entire time talking about how they didn't like that icon or that like blue wasn't their favorite shade. And so what we do at Etsy and what I brought over was every time we start a project, we don't do any work. We spend like 20 minutes and we write down what the problems are we're trying to solve, and then also like the tenets or goals of that project. And it helps kind of craft the conversation, so you take that and send it out to everybody involved in the project. And it's really interesting because like you define these problems and goals, and you send them out, and you realize that like you forgot a bunch of stuff, or people disagree with you about what the goal should be of the project. And so you spend like the first 2 days kind of crafting this thing with everybody and making a list of things everybody agrees on, and all of a sudden you have alignment at the end. And now you're designing against something that we all believe in, not just something that you think is the right thing. The second design principle is no silos. So designers are a distinct advantage at Etsy and pretty much everywhere else, because I've never actually been somewhere where the design team's bigger than any other team. We're usually the smallest team, and that's also true at Etsy. And because we're so small, we're able to easily see what everybody else is working on. At Etsy, we have 250 engineers to 25 designers. And I would bet you if you asked any of those engineers what every other engineer is working on, they could not tell you. There's absolutely no way. But you could ask any designer at Etsy right now what all the other designers are working on, and they would have a complete picture of all the work going on inside the organization. So not only are we easily able to do that, and that will change as we grow, but like right now it's really handy, but we have to. Because it's our job more than anybody else's to think holistically about the product and the things we build. To think about what we're doing as part of a system and not just, this is my project, there are many like it, but this one is mine. But we have to think about all the other projects and how our stuff fits in. So for instance, I was working on a project to completely redesign the feedback system on Etsy. And it's a huge project. Like that code's the oldest code that exists in the code base. The design hadn't been touched in 7 years. 7 years. And it touched a lot of different stuff. And this was one of those pages that it touched. I wanted to actually take it out of its own silo, take the feedback system out of its silo and put it into your receipts page, because that seemed like a more natural place for people to come find like the place to review items they'd purchased. But this page kind of sucks. Like there's like so much data here, and really the only two things people care about when they come to this page are is what did I buy and where the hell is it? But we stacked this page with so much stuff, and like me wanting to add one more field to that felt really bad. So we decided to redesign it. And the other thing about that page is that it's actually the culmination of every feature on Etsy. So anything that happens within Etsy winds up on that page. So gift cards has logic on that page, digital items, custom orders, PayPal, direct deposit, like everything winds up here somehow through logic. And I have no idea how that works. Like I didn't work on any of that stuff. No single designer did. So I went around and talked to all the designers. And took this page and found out why they did what they did, what they needed it to do. I even found cases in which they'd implemented something wrong on purpose, which was really strange. So when you buy a gift card on Etsy, in the past, what they had built was when you buy something, your credit card has to be processed, right? And it takes a few minutes. When you would buy a gift card from Etsy, you would come to this page and it just wouldn't be there. Because we were taking a few minutes, and you hadn't gotten an email, and it wasn't here. There was no record of it anywhere for up to 3 to 5 minutes. And so the first time I bought a gift card, I came here and I was like, oh my god, did I fuck up? Did I not get a gift card? And I bought another one. And I asked them what happened, and the beautiful thing about Etsy is everybody's really honest about their own work. And so I asked the team that did it, I was like, is there a reason for this? And they're like, oh yeah, we just ran out of time and it totally sucks. Please fix it. And so we totally did. And so we took this page and turned it into this. So it's a lot cleaner, way less information. Basically just the stuff you want to know. Actually does more even than the old page in that it puts your purchases in context. So where they're coming from, so from London to your location. And yeah, totally cleaned it up and got you to what you wanted instead of trying to fit all that stuff in. And if I hadn't talked to all those people, and if I'd stayed in that little box of my project, we would have assumed a lot of things. And we would have been wrong over and over and over, and we would have wasted a lot of time and work and effort trying to go back and undo the changes we had made. Another principle we have is we share a lot. Because just like we don't want to silo like our individual features and projects, we also don't want to silo our design processes. At Etsy, we work in a lot of different ways as designers. Some people like sketch a lot. That's me. That's actually fake. I did that just for this, to be honest with you. Some of you do this. Don't give me that. I've seen stuff up here sometimes. I'm like, you didn't do that. Some people use Photoshop. And some of us jump straight into Vim. We have designers who use Vim primarily. Jerks. It makes me so upset because it's so good. Like, I wish I could do that. But we don't care what your design process is at Etsy. We actually just care that it's transparent, and that and again, this is to like make sure that we're all thinking holistically and able to see each other's work and able to like make decisions based on what's happening all around us, not just like that one single point that is our feature. So we use Basecamp. This is something any of you can do. It's actually super hot and useful. It's only design posts in there. I don't know why. Like, everybody's welcome. But we're the only ones who post work in here, and it's really great because every morning you get a big email digest. It's my favorite email. I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm a true manager. My favorite email is a Basecamp email that has all the work that got posted the day before and all the discussions from the day before. So like, my first hour of every morning is to sit there and like kind of like look through all of the design work that's happened and all of the discussion between all the teams, which is really super useful. And like I said, like all of our projects start with these like problems and tenets. And actually, if a project already exists, like and you're like doing improvements to it, you write the strengths down of what exists. Apparently, this one had no strengths. Like, that's how bad the thing was she was working on. We have a lot of old design at Etsy. Please come work with us. It's terrible. And then there's a lot of discussion going on, and like it allows us to critique each other, and it like allows us to like have conversations that like again like as we grow the team, it becomes harder and harder to make sure that like we're all talking in person all the time. We also do design critiques twice a week, where we all look at each other's work like in person, and kind of like just share. It's not so much about the critique, I think, as it is about just seeing each other's faces and like knowing what's going on and being able to say like, hey, you, I meant to talk to you. Like, let's go grab a room after this. So the last design principle is celebrate failure. We've heard a lot about this today. Yeah, that's not going to be great for him. I love Calvin and Hobbes, by the way. It's so good. So we have this saying at Etsy, perfection is a pursuit. I'm going to steal some stuff from this guy who's a staff engineer at Etsy, Dan McKinley, like super smart dude, much smarter than me, and I've always been told I should steal things from the people that are smarter than me. So there are two approaches to product development. There's this one. Again, this is the single timeline we talked about earlier. You design, you develop, you measure, and you all get fired. This assumes we're right. Like, if we spend 6 months on this project, like we're going to be right at the end. And the truth is that we're wrong all the time. There's all of this space here that like we don't know anything about. Like, we're not making any more decisions in this space. We've like designed something and tossed it over a wall, assuming it's okay, and then like all these months go by, and then we ship something and like realize we were wrong. So we prefer one single timeline, but broken up into like smaller, iterative, measurable releases. So we design, develop, measure, design, develop, measure to get to where we're going. What that does is it allows you to like totally screw up or to be nicer about it, learn about your ideas and make them better. So an example of this is the listing page. So the listing page is another really old page at Etsy. It was 5 years old. We decided to redesign it this year. It looked like this. It had just been added to and added to and added to. You can see this amazing like right rail of stuff, and it's like there's like 15 different actions you could take. When all we really want you to do is like find an item you love and add it to your cart, right? It also does a really poor job of telling you what Etsy is. So this is another thing everybody should be doing. At Etsy, everybody does a support rotation twice a quarter. And we spend 3 hours twice a quarter like answering customer emails and like support emails from sellers and buyers. And every time I've ever done that, there's a big batch of emails, and I love them. My favorite emails ever, because it'll be like a contact support form, and they'll have just written, "Can I get that in blue?" I have no idea what they were looking at. I have absolutely no idea. Like, I didn't make the item. Like, they didn't send me that contact from like this page. They actually like scrolled down the bottom of the page, clicked help, clicked contact, and then found that form. They did that really complex action because I couldn't figure out that a person made this, and they should talk to them. But the fun thing is like trying to help them find a blue thing. So we do a really bad job. I mean, like our entire our product moat is that like you're buying from a real person and not from a warehouse. Sorry, PJ. So that's right. I did just leave there. So this is Kim. She's a lead designer at Etsy. She is the one who took on this project. And then shortly afterwards, I married her 2 months ago. Thanks, Etsy. No, she's totally badass. She's a much better designer than I am, so that's really, really convenient for me. So this was the first version of the listing page. This is the first redesign. We called it Henry. All of them were named after Henry. We'll get into that in a second. But it's actually like, so this starts to feel better visually. Like there's more information in the buy box about like how much it costs to ship, where it's shipping from, what materials it's made out of, all things we had access to. And then at the top of the page, there's like a call out to like the shop name. And then below the page, below the fold, there's like this really big, like, this is the shop identity area. So this took about 4 to 6 weeks to design and build this first version. Looks way better than the thing we had. Like, we were pretty confident in it. And so the result was total fucking disaster. So we released this thing, and like to 1% of traffic, and a couple weeks later, we find out that like it actually performed worse than the thing that we had shipped, like the old thing that we had out there for 5 years. It performed worse. Bounce rates went way up, so people would hit this page and leave and never come back. That's not great for us or them. We call them positive actions, so like add to cart, favorite, add to lists and stuff, all were down. And I think most people get pretty depressed about that sort of thing. Like PJ's saying, it's hard for a lot of people when like your experiment fails, because like you put a lot into it and it totally tanked. But the secret is, so at Etsy, like we know V1s fail. We know they always fail. There's like not ever a scenario where we've shipped something and it's been right. It's always wrong. So we planned for that. In fact, that first 4 to 6 weeks, we shipped that, and like while we were waiting for data, we knew what we thought was wrong, and we were like already iterating. And as data started coming in, we started making adjustments to those iterations. And we wound up doing 21 versions of that thing and shipping 21 versions in 6 months. To different levels of traffic. We're going to do some nice little scrolly action. So there's Henry, Enrique, Hank, Henny, and Henrietta. Henrietta was the winner. But we did 21 iterations, and things got better, right? Things progressively got better. And we stopped at 6 months because that was the time box we had given ourselves. And this is the end result. So there's a big shop call out at the top. That was awesome. We removed the shipping costs from the page because we found out that like people don't really like that until they're later in the flow. They don't like seeing it there for some reason. It like does some math in their head and things short circuit. This is our terrible footer. I'm so sorry. We're trying to fix that. But yeah, so short, iterative, measurable. The whole thing was a win. I think like we wound up with a 3% conversion lift, which when like again, like when you're talking about nearly $1 billion in sales per year, that's not anything to sneeze at. It's one of the biggest wins we've ever had as a company. So basically, like what I'm trying to say is all of our designs are imperfect. V1s are imperfect, and we should just accept that and move on with our lives. I'm like missing slides or something as well. We should accept that and move on with our lives. And then the final principle is that all of this stuff is subject to change. So just like we iterate on our product at Etsy, we also iterate on our culture. All of this stuff here, like all of those, like that design meeting that's twice a week, I think we've changed it 4 times since I've been at Etsy because it keeps breaking. It keeps just not doing what we need it to do, and it's not giving the designers the kind of feedback they need. So we continuously are evolving it. Actually, this is my first job like managing designers ever. And when I sat down with our creative director, Randy, on my first day, I was like, just so you know, I've never done this, and it could go really poorly. Like, I could be the worst manager in the entire world. This is not crazy. Hopefully that's not the case. But he said something really interesting to me. He said, that's fine. it'll just be as permanent as anything else at Etsy, which is to say that it's not. He was like, if something's going wrong, we'll all know it. You'll know it, I'll know it, and then we'll like make an adjustment and it'll be fine. If you have to go back and do design work, which is fine, like you should just go back and do that if it turns out that management's not great. I'm still managing, so that's good. That's a good sign, I think. But it makes you not afraid to fail if you can just accept that, like, and this is the thing about your internal culture, right? It's like, I think we all do this with our products where we're like, it's okay to fail, but then we fail internally and it's like really heartbreaking and gut-wrenching. But just accept that things grow and change. Thanks.